Hello all, this is Barbara Mann from Your Empowered You, and welcome to our video of empowering employees at any skill level. So in this video, we're going to talk about why empowerment is so critical for the operation and how to make sure that all levels of employees feel that empowerment. So what does empowerment mean? Why is it important? How to really empower people, whether they're tenure employees, medium level, or little tenure or new employees. And then we're going to talk about some of the commonalities and similarities between those approaches with different levels of employees. So what is the definition of empowerment? So the dictionary definition of empowerment, when I go through this, think about how this applies to the workplace as a manager and with their teams. So the definition of empowerment is authority or power given to someone to do something. And the other definition is the process of becoming stronger and more confident, especially in one's life and claiming one's rights. So you can see how this is very applicable to the workplace. So why is it important? Because we hire employees to make decisions. And going back to that definition of empowerment, authority or power given to someone to do something. We hire employees to make decisions. Empowerment is extremely critical because this really adds value to employees for that autonomy, for that empowerment for decision making. It really builds trust amongst the manager and their team and the team with their manager. It helps everybody from the manager to their direct team really gains confidence. And once people are more empowered to make decisions and they're making them freely without reviewing it with managers, this creates efficiencies. So the faster that someone can just make these quick decisions, it creates efficiencies. The operation moves more smoothly. And finally, it creates accountability. You know, accountability sometimes seems like a scary word to some people, but accountability is really what employees want. They want to be accountable. They want to be empowered. So when you're empowered, and people are trusting you to make decisions, you're accountable for those good decisions. Now, accountability goes both ways. Sometimes you make a boo-boo, but most of the time you're making great decisions. You're accountable for the great decision making. So how do we approach, say you're a new manager, you're coming into an organization, or whether it's a new team, a new organization, a new office, and you have different levels of employees. And the first level employee I want to talk about on expediting empowerment is with our tenure folks. So these are our people who are real proficient with their positions. They probably have a mastery sort of skill set. They're very comfortable with autonomy and decision making. People probably have trusted their decision making. So they're in those roles for a reason. But, you know, the reality is, as a new manager, you may not know their skill sets. I mean, I've been involved in these situations. I don't know the staff. They may have strong personalities because they're really used to full autonomy in their decision making. That's fantastic. But as a new manager, you may not know their skill sets. And I can tell you from a personal experience, I've been burned by this, where I was advised that, you know, this person had this skill set. Don't worry about this person's fine. Well, it wasn't fine, and within the first month I was there was a bad mistake that this person made. It was a very easily avoidable mistake too, so I learned a lot from that experience actually. But ultimately, the manager is accountable for all the decisions of your team, and especially as a new manager, you do not know their skill set, so it's up to you to quickly get up to speed to know what people's skill sets are, what their thought process is, things of that nature. So my advice is you set up some sort of discussion group targeting maybe certain types of decisions or cases that you'd like to be involved in. And again, all this is about is understanding quickly how are they coming up with their decisions. Do you agree with them? Do you feel that something needs to be added? Do you feel that something needs to be changed? But you're trying to quickly understand everybody's skill set. And with tenure employees, you need to explain why you're doing this. These are people, again, who have probably a mastery sort of skill set. They probably have a strong type of personality. They're probably going to say, I feel like my decision making's been stripped. I don't feel empowered. I don't feel like I have autonomy. But once you quickly verify that you're calibrated with their decision making and you're telling them why you're doing this, they'll get on board. And really, when these people get in groups and they're discussing, say, a complicated decision or a complicated case, people are listening to them. They act as mentors to others, and that really helps to expedite calibration amongst the team, and other people really learn very quickly. And again, the more that people can learn either directly or indirectly of how a manager is calibrated with others, they calibrate then with their team very, very quickly, and that's how empowerment is really, really expedited, and those expectations are set. So let's talk about empowerment with, say, our mid-level employees. So it's similar type of items with our tenure employees. As a new manager, you don't know their skill sets. These people actually may be very proficient in certain areas, but they still ask questions. Maybe they're not confident in certain decisions or cases. So ultimately, again, you're accountable for those decisions. So having some sort of structure where you're asking them, how did they come up with the thought process, asking about their pros and cons, if necessary, on, say, a decision, it really sheds light. It gives you insight so that you can make sure that you're calibrated extremely quickly. And they can ask questions and they can get calibrated, especially if they're in groups with others. These are great learning opportunities for not only the employee, but for others. So again, this is about making sure that you're providing validation that something is correct, or providing additional insight in case something may not be calibrated. But again, your job, especially for mid-level employees, is to really make sure that they gain that confidence quickly so they can get to actually that mastery level. But again, these employees want to feel empowered. They want that autonomy just like anybody else. But your job is just to make sure that they're calibrated. But the faster that you can trust their decisions, that's where the magic starts happening, and that's where the people feel empowered, they feel trusted, they feel autonomous, and that is why we hire our employees. We do not want to micromanage our folks if we don't have to. Nothing annoys employees more than a manager who is micromanaging. That's not a leader, by the way. That is just a manager. There's a difference between a manager and a leader. That's another discussion, actually. So let's talk about how we can empower our new employees. So our new employees, usually there's a couple of buckets for new employees. Some may be very comfortable making decisions. Maybe they came from an environment where they were pulling the triggers left and right, and they were very comfortable making decisions. And then you have another group that may not be as comfortable. Maybe this is their first job of decision making. Their skill set isn't there. They may not be as confident. They may be coming to you more for an answer. So when you have a new employee who may come to you for an answer, having sort of discussion groups becomes really, really important for this group. But they may come to you just say off the fly and say, I don't know what to do in this case. What do I do? From my experience, you always have to kick it back and say, what do you think we should do? Now, the comeback is going to be, well, I don't know. That's why I came to you. But if you're explaining to them why you want to understand their thought process, they will tell you what their thought process is. And the more that they can come to you and say, well, I don't really know what I do, but here's what I think I should do. What do you think? You're getting into understanding their critical thinking process, and that's exactly what you want to do. You want to understand how they came to that decision. And then all it is, your job as a manager then is to either agree or to advise them of maybe alternative sort of solutions. But this is how we really gain the confidence and the trust. So once you start agreeing with more and more of their thought process, they're going to gain the confidence and that trust, right? Makes sense. It's common sense. Now, for the folks who, aren't really on board with, well, why do I need to come to you for decisions? I'm used to making decisions. You need to understand, just like the tenure group, why you're asking them to come, because you need to just calibrate and understand what their thought process is, and making sure that you're providing the fishing pole and not the fish. That's important. Provide the fishing pole and not the fish. I've seen this many, many times with managers where someone comes to them and says, I don't know what to do. What do I need to do? The manager ultimately just gives them the decision. That's not really empowering an employee. You're just becoming the little, it's not even a teacher. You're not teaching them. You're just giving them the answer. Really, when you're coaching, you want to help them to analyze and enhance those critical thinking skills to get to that decision. So as you guys work through their decision making, that's providing more of that fishing pole, so the next time they can make the decision on their own and not come to you. But that's very, very, very important at any level of employee. Provide that fishing pole and not the fish. That's what expedites empowerment, autonomy, trust, all the magic. And again, if a new employee isn't used to having discussions, you explain the reasoning. You can't really. I've had employees where they may not understand, why we're doing this, so they may not bring in everything. You just have to explain, this is why we're doing it. It helps not only the employee, it helps the whole entire group. So it's not just about them, it's about the group learning as well. So some of those commonalities that we discussed with the 3 groups is always ask for that thought process. It expedites calibration, it expedites trust, it expedites autonomy. After a while, the manager's role is then just to verify or add an opinion, not necessarily to change kind of the whole sort of critical thinking analysis, but it's really there just to verify and then just to build the trust and the confidence. But again, steer away from providing that direct answer as much as possible. There are times where you're just going to need to give an answer, and I understand that. But the more that you can steer away with providing the direct answer and then giving it to you, this expedites empowerment and trust and decision and confidence level for an employee and for the manager. So then, what happens is when the employee is calibrated, reduce or cease these discussions. If you don't need to have them, don't have them. But the only key is that making sure that if you cease these things, the only item to think about is that the employee may not act as a mentor to others. So when you have someone who's in these discussion groups, other people are listening to them. They're listening to how they're coming with the decision so they can learn as well, and vice versa. Another person may be talking about a particular case or decision, and that person may be learning as well. So when you cease those discussions, that's fine, but there's pros and cons when you do that, because you may be reducing the learning opportunities for others as well. So let's wrap this up in a bow. Ultimately, the manager is accountable for the decisions of the team. And really what the job is to make sure the manager is calibrated with their staff, the staff's calibrated with the manager, and that the manager is expediting empowerment, autonomy, trust for all levels of employee. For any level employee, ask about that thought process and provide the fishing pole and not the fish. I don't care what level we're at, that is critical. Those 2 things, when you ask, what do you think? What do you think we should do? That is analyzing their thought process. It's providing the fishing pole and not the fish. So steer away from providing that answer and try to understand the thought process first. Again, this is meant to build empowerment. It's meant to build trust. It's meant to build confidence with the team. So if the employee comes to the manager and says, this is what I think we should do, and the manager keeps saying, you've got this. That's perfect. That's exactly what I would do. Think about how that makes an employee feel. It makes them feel darn good, and it builds the confidence so that it creates, again, efficiencies, empowerment, engagement, all those things. That's exactly what you want from your team. So I hope you've enjoyed our video on empowering your employees at all levels. So for additional resources or to schedule a session with me, please visit my website at www.youремpoweredyou.com. You can email me at bman@youремpoweredyou.com, or you can call me at 916-633-2555. And I thank you very much and have a very empowered day.